वहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
मा कुरु धन जन यौवन गर्वं हरति निमेषात् कालः सर्वम्। मायामयमिदमखिलं बुद्ध्वा ब्रह्मपदं त्वं प्रविश विदित्वा। विनयामिन्यौ सायं प्रातः शिशिरवसन्तौ पुनरायातः। कालः क्रीडति गच्छत्यायुः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशावायुः। काते कान्ता धनगतचिन्ता वातुल किं तव नास्ति नियन्ता। त्रिजगति सज्जन सङ्गतिरेका भवति भवार्णवतरणे नौका। जटिलो मुण्डीलुञ्चितकेशः काषायाम्बर बहुकृतवेषः। पश्यन्नपि च न पश्यति मूढो युदरनिमित्तं बहुकृतवेषः। अङ्गं गलितं पलितं मुण्डं दशनविहीनं जातं तुण्डम्। वृद्धो याति गृहीत्वा दण्डं तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापिण्डम्। अग्रे वह्निः पृष्ठे भानुः रात्रौ जुगुकसमर्पितजानुः। करतलभिक्षस्तरुतलवासः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापाशः। कुरुते गङ्गासागरगमनं व्रतपरिपालनमथवा दानम्। ज्ञानविहीनः सर्वमतेन मुक्तिं न भजति जन्मशतेन। सुरमन्दिरतरुमूलनिवासः शय्या भूतलमजिनं वासः। सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः। योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा सङ्गरतो वा सङ्गविहीनः। यस्य ब्रह्मणि रमते चित्तं नन्दति नन्दति नन्दत्येव। भगवद्गीता किञ्चिदधीता गङ्गाजललवकणिका पीता। सकृदपि येन मुरारिसमर्चा क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा।
One with matted locks, one with head shaven, one with hair pulled out, one disguised variously with ochre robes. A fool, though seeing, sees not. Indeed, the varied disguise is for the sake of belly. Verse 13, what we covered in the last class, talks about the path of the spiritual practitioners, which is to start from satsang. Verse 14 deplores the state of the ignoramuses claiming to be spiritual. This is a very important verse, particularly in the context of when the Bhaja Govindam came. He is sort of attacking the pseudo-sannyasins, adopting weird practices. See, it is a very important ashrama is the Sannyasa Ashrama. It has been eulogized, and when we studied the Upanishad, we saw that it is Atyashrami, whoever is at the highest stage of life, which is Sannyasa Ashrama, who himself is qualified to study the Upanishad. In Hindu way of life, we have these 4 stages or ashramas known as the Brahmacharya stage, Grahastha Ashrama, Vanaprastha and Sannyasa Ashrama. Each ashrama has its own importance and it prepares for the next stage. Each and every ashrama prepares us for the next stage. So there is a beautiful way of life or a way of system that is given by which we can set our life in a pattern for which the human life is given to us, which is to attain the self, which is to go towards the supreme. The preparation for which starts from the very early childhood. So Brahmacharya Ashrama is just not a school life. Of course, it's school life where we learn education. But what type of education? What is the attitude with which we learn the education? And how it prepares us for the next stage of life, which is going to prepare us for the next stage. Like that, it has to be understood. We see in our early itihasas or history, though this ashrama is like Sanatana, always has been there. Earliest known, as we know, is Ramayana, and then we see the Mahabharata. There we don't see many characters, or I really can't think of anybody who is sort of a sannyasi. There are rishis, there are sages, there are munis, they are different. There are rishis who have stayed with their wives also. Okay, that is something different. But this, and there could have been sannyasins, but we don't find them in big numbers as we see in the later part of our own Indian history. There is a reason behind it. What is very interesting when we see Ramayana is, you may not find a character of a sannyasi there, but all the main characters in Ramayana show an exemplary spirit of renunciation. That is really inspiring when we read Ramayana. Bharata was a picture of renunciation. Just because Rama has said that he should not come along with him and he should follow the words of his father Dasharatha that he must rule the kingdom, Bharata took up the ochre robes or the robes that Rama was wearing, and he was not sitting on the throne, but he was ruling from Nandigram, as it were, with the chappals of Rama on the throne. Exemplary. And based on the word of Bharata, Shatrughna did not do that, and he was still in the same detached mode. We know of Rama, we know of Lakshmana. The greatness of Rama, we see that when in the morning he goes to the palace where Dasharatha is going to make all the arrangements to coronate Rama. Okay. And he goes with all the preparation there. But the news is revealed because of what happened in the previous night as a conversation between Kaikeyi and Dasharatha, that he is not going to ascend the throne now, he is going to the forest. That made zero difference in the attitude of Rama, which is shown as his facial expression. In fact, in Tamil Ramayana, it is said that his face was like that of a fully blown lotus which had blown that very moment. We know of Lakshmana, the character who is extremely passionate and extremely emotional. And he will not tolerate anything that is going against what is perceived to be justice, particularly with reference to Rama. And Lakshmana was there standing by the side of Rama. Later in Kaushalya's palace, when they are going to go, Lakshmana is going to just flare up. He is going to say that let us, what is in modern terminology called as a coup. Let us banish Dasharatha, we will tie him up, we will put Kaikeyi into jail and you have to take over the kingdom. All this, it just comes from the depth of his emotions like that, and that is how Lakshmana is designed. But the moment this news was conveyed, by Kaikeyi in front of Dasharatha to Rama, Lakshmana was there. He just couldn't react anything at all at that point of time there. The only reason is that he was just awestruck or wonderstruck by the face of Rama. Nothing else. Nothing else. It has just silenced him at that point of time. To regain his real nature, it took some time. So we see exemplary renunciation in Rama, exemplary renunciation in all the characters, in Vibhishana, in the people of Ayodhya. They would not celebrate anything till their king came. So, spirit of renunciation is very important. That is seen there. In Mahabharata, which is a different time of our history also, we see that we don't see much sannyasins as a character. This aspect of very many sannyasins themselves came probably after the time of Lord Buddha. What is very interesting to note is that Buddha was not a Buddhist as we know today what is Buddhism. Buddhism came after Buddha. In fact, if you see the life of Siddhartha, which transformed into Lord Buddha, it was the life of a perfect Hindu. He goes through all the ashramas, understands the importance of inquiry, then renounces everything towards knowledge. Okay, and Buddha emphasized importance of inquiry, getting into knowledge. But when the religion is taken to the masses and the core principles are applied, a lot of people had taken up sannyasa left, right and center post that, and that became sort of a way of life in terms of a group of people itself. So sannyasa as an ashrama, as a mass movement came probably after Lord Buddha's times. Otherwise, in our history also, we don't see it as an institutionalized ashrama. We see whoever is a ready person who is at that stage of vairagya, only he can go. There are various niyama and various other measures that are given. Even after vanaprastha, you have to try it out for some time. If not possible with that type of a dhrida vairagya, you can revert back. It is not a joke to play with. That type of ashrama is Sannyasa Ashrama. But then, post Buddha's time, when this became like that, probably much later when Adi Shankaracharya came, this has to be institutionalized in the proper way from Hindu side also to counter the wrong practices on the other side. That is why even today, the Shankara mutts where sannyasins are there right from the Naishtika Brahmacharya stage, where they don't get into Grahastha Ashrama and they go through directly to Sannyasa Ashrama. It is living tradition till today in various mutts today, in Sringeri, in Kanchi, in Puri, various Dwaraka. This ashrama is going on. And in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, they do have Sannyasa Ashrama also, but that is very strict that you have to go through the Grahastha Ashrama stage, Ramanujacharya downwards, everybody. Then only you can take up sannyasa. It is not that they will go directly from here. So, this is still today an ashrama which is worth respecting, which is worth adoring. And because not all people can have the dhrida vairagya to practice it. But what is interesting in this verse is, this Bhaja Govindam is attributed to Shankaracharya himself. We do not know whether he wrote or somebody in the Shankara Parampara wrote. That doesn't matter. It is the inspiration of Shankaracharya only. And many hundreds of years ago this was written. He is condemning the pseudo-sannyasins at that point of time itself. Very interesting. He is saying jatilaha. Jatilaha means one who is having a jata. Mundi. Mundi is one person who has shaven off his head completely. Lunchita keshaha. Lunchita keshaha means a type of practice where you pluck the hair one by one from your head. It is a very painful exercise, probably referring to the Jain's practice. Mundi refers to the practice of Buddhists. Jatilaha, the practice of certain Hindus who do this. But all said and done, all of them have taken up sannyas. All of them have sort of outwardly renounced everything, and they have set themselves in the path of finding out the truth, understanding the ultimate reality, finding out who God is, finding out who their real self is. This is what is the role of a sannyasi. He has left his one small family and he has sort of taken up the universe to be his family. When I say his family, it is not in a way of terrestrial entanglement. He has no particular attachment anywhere. He is there available as a friend everywhere. That sort of a person is a real sannyasi. The matted locks actually signifies tapas. You see that Lord Shiva is also in matted locks. The hair represents desires. Hair represents your mind. So, by itself, the hair will not be properly controlled or tamed. It will not be like that. So, it has to be bound with effort, with force. So, the tapas aspect represents that you have a self-control over yourself and direct your energy for a higher cause. That is called as tapas. So, the matted lock represents tapasya. Even that's why Lord Rama had to undergo that tapasya. And he had to put on that vesha when he had to go to the forest. So this represents tapasya. The shaving of the head also is significant, that it is to show that you are bereft of all desires. When you are in the brahmacharya stage, when you are going to your guru, a small tuft is kept. If you know the real ritual, that means that person has not renounced the entire world. He has temporarily shaven off the entire worldly desires for the time being, so that he is initiated into the education, but he is still carrying some tuft, which is to talk about certain desires towards the higher, is still there to learn the shastras, to go ahead, all those things are there. But in case of a sannyasi, he is into the second stage of the guru now, where he comes out and he has no sacred thread, he is completely shaven off, like that it is. That means he is completely burnt all his desires, as it were. And then Lunchita Keshaha is not recommended, as it were, in Sanatana Dharma, but there are some people who practice this. I do not know now, but they used to practice. It is on the principle of undergoing extreme pain on a voluntary basis in order to direct your thoughts towards the higher. But this is not sanctioned probably in our scriptures, but they do it. There was a, not recent, about 15-20 years ago, there was a novel written by, who is it? Dan Brown. What is the famous? Da Vinci Code. Da Vinci Code was there. In Da Vinci Code, there is a character who mechanically follows whatever the teacher says. I forgot his name. He belongs to a sect called the Opus Dei. Opus Dei is there even today. I do not know if they are there practicing in the West somewhere, at least in a small group. He used to give sort of very, very cruel punishments to himself, to the body, by binding yourself with hard fence, lashes, and making the body go through extreme trouble. Like that is a similar principle here. The principle that they think of is that this body is inherently sinful, and this body has to go through certain amount of forced, within quotes, tapasya, as it were, to burn off the karma. That doesn't work this way. What will remain only is the pain with your body, nothing else will work. But this is some people do it. Lunchita keshaha. See, what will work? What is the principle behind it is, when you are attuned to the higher knowledge and you raise your level of consciousness, there will be what is known as a paschata. Paschata in Sanskrit means tapa, or you feel a regret or remorse afterwards. Meaning, after you have gained a higher level of consciousness, you look back and say, I should not have done it. Or you genuinely feel about whatever you have done with a lower level of consciousness. That little phase everybody has to go through. And then whatever you go through at the physical and mental level, you accept it as your past karma. This is the way of dealing with it. But your orientation is towards the knowledge of the higher, and with that attitude you will try to detach yourself and mechanically go through it. The real focus here is the knowledge of the higher, not the pain that you go through. You are indifferent to the pain based on your attachment to the knowledge of the higher. So nowhere it is said that you go through the pain because of which it will go voluntarily. So in other words, it is not to self-torture yourself. These are some of the practices which are not in alignment with Sanatana Dharma. It is there. Okay. So he's talking about various practices done by this various. Why he is condemning them as pseudo sannyasis? Kashayambara bahukruta veshaha. Kashayambara means ochre robes. This ochre robe is a very, very, very important, a significant uniform, as it were, for the sannyasins. Ochre robe, when a person wears and is walking, let us say, from a distance, it resembles like a fire. It's the color of the fire. So what it means is, for all practical purposes, he has burnt his body. For all practical purposes, he has burnt his individual self. And he is moving about here and there for the welfare of the world. That is a real sannyasin. So to signify that is the ochre robe. So people know that this person has to be left alone. He should not be disturbed. And he is there for our welfare. This is the significance of ochre robe. But sannyasa had probably reduced itself to the level of just following the mechanical practices that are there outside. Famous verse of Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna says, Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi sa yogi. Who is a sannyasi? Is a person who does what he ought to do. It's a very interesting definition, because sannyasa is an ashrama of akarma. That means it's a stage of non-action, a stage of contemplation, a stage of higher thing. But Krishna gives a very beautiful definition that a person who does what he ought to do in the spirit of renunciation, he is a sannyasi without an eye on the fruit of action. Without eye on the fruit of action, whoever does whatever he ought to do, he is a sannyasi. That is why we are encouraged that we see that so many people who have practiced the spirit of renunciation with not ochre robes, but with even white dhoti and kurta. When I say white dhoti kurta, I mean the grahastha ashrama people. I mean the householders. They have shown the level of renunciation which is probably equal to 1,000 sannyasins also. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, I was, when I was new to Calcutta, in some context I said Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Somebody immediately corrected me and said that we usually don't call him Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. We either say Thakur Ramakrishna or Sri Ramakrishna. Because generally, this title Swami is given to Sannyasin. Swami Vivekananda, Swami Abhedananda, Swami Chinmayananda. Like that is the Swami title given to the Sannyasa Ashrama. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did not take formally a Sannyasa Ashrama. But can anybody show a sense of renunciation more than that he had and Ma Sharada had shown? Not possible. Okay. There have been people who have taken off ochre robes and they have also shown. As I said, Adi Shankaracharya himself was the avatar of Adi Shankaracharya itself was to show the glory of this state only. Okay. So, what is important is to maintain the spirit of sannyasa, spirit of renunciation. So, Krishna says, he does not end that verse with says, Sa sannyasi sa yogi, na niragnihi na chakriyaha. Agni or the fire worship is the very key component of the brahmacharis going into the grihastha ashrama stage. So in the grihastha ashrama stage, whenever you do any ritual, along with the wife when you do, all the rituals are centered around fire. So therefore, when a person goes into the sannyasa ashrama stage, he leaves all the rituals, he takes out the sacred thread also, nothing that he can be bound. He is not bound by any rituals anymore. That means he has left Agni or fire as it were. But Krishna says, just because you have left your Agni doesn't mean you are a sannyasi. Nacha kriyaha. So, I need not do anything. I have to sit in a place and contemplate, meditate, fine. Just because you don't do anything, you are not a sannyasi. Come to 20th century, Swami Ramtirtha says the same thing. He is having a statistic of about around 50 to 52,000 sannyasins at that point of time in the Himalayas. Even today, there are very many great souls there. We may not even know their face or name, but sitting there in their tapas, probably this country is still running. But he is counting up to 50,000 sannyasins at point of time. And he says, he gives the duties of what every Brahmin should do, what every Vaishya should do, what every Shudra should do. All those things he is saying in terms of their dedication dedication towards the higher ideal to Bharat Mata and other things. Then he says, it is the duty of the sannyasins to grind themselves in this exemplary service of the nation, that they have to have the spirit of the Shudra and the glory of the renunciation of a sannyasin. And he himself lived a life like that and showed. Swami Vivekananda downwards, various people, they have all shown that it is not just to take up and immerse yourself in meditation, contemplation alone, but when you are there in the society, to be a beacon light for them, to show by actual action and service also. Same Adi Shankaracharya, whom we consider as avatara of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, in this context, we can take as Adi Guru, who is the potential energy of Dakshinamurti, who just sat in a place and just maintained silence. There was no movement anywhere, there was no speech anywhere. And yet, he was able to clarify the doubts of everybody through his Brahmajnan. That is the picture of Dakshinamurti. That same potential energy is what we consider as Adi Shankaracharya, kinetic energy, same Shiva only. There, he walked everywhere all around India. Maybe using bullock cart sometimes, maybe using walk, but he travelled crisscross the country more than 3 times. There is not any corner of this country which is not even associated with Shankaracharya. And he talked. He brought the knowledge to the level of every person. He debated, won over the scholars. He went to temples and sang various hymns, various things. Karma Yoga, he established matas, which is there till today. So Adi Shankaracharya himself was a great example of this yoga. But why he is sort of attacking and condemning is, you will attack or condemn something which is much precious, but when it has lost its value. Sannyasa Ashrama is the precious most of all, and it is, if you find any great sannyasins like that, just the thought of them, just the prostration to them, that itself is a great blessing and boon for us. But he is condemning here because he says, why do they do this? He says, Udara Nimittam. Udara Nimittam means for the sake of belly. Even today, even if a person has taken up sannyasa and he is just doing it mechanically, let us assume, we should not say sitting in this chair here, but let us assume he is a pseudo-sannyasin. Let us assume he is not properly following. Even then, just because you have got the ochre robe, even in this start of Kali Yuga, you still have command respect among the people. Respect in the sense, you will be taken care of. Nobody will want to deny bhiksha to the sannyasi. That is the fortune of a householder if he is able to serve the sannyasin. Therefore, what he is trying to say is, whatever is required for you to sustain, that is guaranteed, and therefore only for that you have taken up sannyasa. It is a very, very, shameful. So he is saying, Udara Nimittam Bahukrita Veshaha, for the sake of belly. Once you have done this, you just while away your time or you do something at the right time. If the bhiksha comes to you, you eat, sleep. This is not the way in which it has to be approached or practiced. And why he is saying them to be Muda again is, Mudaha is a person, a fool. And fool is a sort of, we know, it is a title given to some person who has the potential of achieving something yet falls below the potential. If a person has doesn't have a potential and he scores 50 marks, we say very good. Because he was only capable of passing, but he has got 50 marks. You say very good, and you even give him a present. But another son of yours is capable of getting 100 marks and he got 97 because of a silly mistake. Then what do you say? Fool. How can you make this mistake? Because he has a potential. Now what is the potential here? Rightly or wrongly, they have taken up a ashrama which is directly dedicated towards self-realization. Nothing short of it, nothing else. And they have sort of got that vairagya, and they are not expected to do any other thing in the world. Okay? All that they need to do is practice it with Dhrida Vairagya. So they have probably, if they succeed, it is the shortest way. They are going to reach there quickly. Having got into that mold, he says, Mudaha. They have lost that opportunity. They are just sort of whiling away their time, which is not supposed to be done that way. So, it is out of very deep compassion that this verse is being said. That such people, see, in the context that we have to understand now, because we are talking about a verse which was written centuries ago. Now also there are post, I would say, 1940s, 50s, we have seen lot of new age gurus, particularly with reference to neo-Vedantins who have come up, and various ashramas, various orders, monks in various orders, there are there, various swamis are there, and various people give sannyasa left, right, center to each and everybody, to very many people, very many, and at a very young age. Okay, they who undertake this sannyasa ashrama at a very young age, no doubt at that point of time they are very inspired and they are charged by the knowledge. And this is not a show off, or this is not something that they are putting on an act. It is genuine. Even in a very small way, ours is not a great experience, but in a very small way, when we go through the course in the Vedanta Academy also, within quotes I'm saying, it is like a temporary sannyas for 3 years. 3 years is a minimum, and we are not moving outside. You are confined to a campus, doing the schedule where your thoughts are centered around this. Even there, when a person goes through the rigor of the schedule, which takes time to get in, usually at the end of the first year or second year, when he is deep into it, everybody feels a sense of a high, lofty thinking and ideal which naturally comes. All are like Vivekananda and Ramtirtha only then. Everybody goes through that phase. But then after the course is over, when we come out, take classes, and when we are in touch with the world, it is not that our inspiration or anything is any low, but you will then deal with the bulk of your vasanas, and the real spiritual sadhana begins by that point of time also. In other words, 3 years is not the end of the course. 3 years is the beginning. It just lays the foundation. Afterwards, it's a long way to go. By God's grace and Guru's grace, you have to travel. And so when at that point of time, but you cannot question the inspiration of that student who is studying there. Like that, various paths, various people, they do get inspired. But what we have to understand is, as far as you have seen as an institution is concerned, it is something that you must be very careful when you get into. There is nowhere that it is said that with a little bit of vairagya and all you can try it out. Nothing like that. It has to be very dhrida vairagya. See, sannyasa as a renunciation is talked about as a effect. It's a stage that you go into. Mundaka Upanishad talks about a fulfilled householder, which is what normally a person will go into the later into the sannyasa. But there have been in Upanishad very inspiring characters like Shvetaketu or Nachiketa, who is very inspired from a very young age, but they are more of an exception than a rule. So therefore, in the modern context, I would not say the students, the gurus must be very careful as to who they are initiating into the Sannyasa Ashrama. At any point of time, anybody gets into this. When I say this, it is just when probably this verse was written, Christianity or Islam or those religions were not there. So he is talking about that which was the that which was prevalent at that point of time, which was not following the Sanatana Dharma in the full way, which is Buddhism, Jainism, etc. But now think about it. When a priest has to get into this, they also have certain niyama like this. Nicene Creed and other things have given rules as to they have to follow. They have to be a celibate throughout their lives. And also those which are recommending ladies into this in the form of nun, they have to practice this throughout their lives, which is like not a very traditional concept in our culture. And we see that, we get to know that how various people are involved in scandals and they get into various problems. Why is this? As I say, we are not here to condemn or blame any individual or institution or religion like that. But the principle behind that is, by whatever way, let us give the benefit of doubt and credit that at point of time that they are inspired, and they are initiated into this and they want to dedicate their life to God, their inspiration is genuine. But it should not be taken at an impulsive, momentary decision alone. You have to have a full picture of what life is all about and understand the level at which you are, and from there, whatever is the right path for you, you have to take it step by step. As I said, if there is a person who can take up to that directly with a Dhrida Vairagya, you should really prostrate to him. He is one of his kind. And you can try it out also with all hard effort. But never ever write any contract without knowing the full terms of the contract. This is very important. Once you are committed, you are committed. It is impossible for you to rescind that contract. So be very careful before you write any contract. Then what happens? If the knowledge level with reference to Atman and Brahman and Brahmagyan is not at that very inspirational level that you are able to maintain, your vasanas will then show up. Then you have to deal with that vasanas. So Grihastha Ashrama is a very broad-based, fence-based, beautiful laboratory where you have to go through the all the phases of life, all the samsara of life, and try to practice it in a detached way. It's maybe a hard path, but it will slowly prepare you. But if you climb too high and if the fall is from there, then it is a precipitous fall. So one has to be very careful. It is not to discourage or encourage anybody, but this is how it works. So then what happens if a person is not able to swim against the current with all the vairagya and jnana that he has at that point of time? Accidents do happen. So one has to be very, very careful in dealing with that in the context of the modern thing also. It will be great if he is able to take off and go from there by Guru's grace, by God's grace. Our Swamiji used to say, our Paramaguru, Swami Chinmayananda, whose caliber we need not talk about. He, one of the great modern spiritual master who awakened a lot of people. He was not given sannyasa by his guru, Tapovan Maharaj. When he was in Uttarkashi studying their Upanishad for maybe 10 long years, he was there doing tapas, and he has decided and dedicated, and he had that caliber also. So imagine, it is not, we are not nobody to talk about Swami Chinmayananda. I am just giving it as a indication or an example. Swami Chinmayananda probably got his initiation into Sannyasa Ashrama by Swami Shivananda, I think, if I am not mistaken, later. Because it has to be done in a proper way, and he had it. So, if Swami Chinmayananda was denied like this, we have to be very careful. That's all I am saying. It is not to threaten anybody or discourage, but be very careful. But the spirit of renunciation is what we need to practice. That we need to, so that if we are able to inculcate even during the Grihastha Ashrama stage, which a proper way, it will automatically lead to that. So he is condemning the pseudo-sannyasins of that age. And why are they doing udaranamitta? For the sake of belly. Meaning you are taken care of. If you are in this robes, you are taken care of. But it is not for that. You are devaluing the whole institution because of that. So in our context, we can understand what Swamiji has been saying of late, particularly to those who are in the course and those who are doing e-learning course and all. Never get into the phase of what is known as complacency. Your contentment, your sense of satisfaction must be there with reference to your material needs and material wants and money that you have and various other things worldly. With reference to spirituality, never be complacent. Never ever think that, it's enough for, that sort of, at a level it has come, everything is well set now. No. That fire that is there to reach the self, what inspiration probably with which you started, that fire can only increase, it should never decrease. So in that sense, never be content with your spiritual progress at any point of time. Swami Chinmayananda says, keep your ideal so high that you must not be able to reach it. You keep it so high that you must not be able to. That means what? You will be in the struggle always, which Swami Ramtirtha says in a different way. To strive, to struggle, not to succeed. Not that the fruit of the action is there in the mind. Once you reach some level, without our thing, by contrasting with even others' thing, we may get into complacency. So always keep inspiration, always look up to those people who are on the path, who are on the, so in other words, your let's say we have this habit of weakness of comparison. This is a basic human weakness. Always we compare. Actually, to an initial extent, it will work. Say, suppose you tell your son, you look at him and you also study well, that's okay. But beyond a point, comparison becomes a tough thing to take, and it is a curse actually. It is not required. Each and every person is unique. But this sense of comparison and always to view yourself against the peer is a basic human weakness. Okay? Irrespective of what wealth I have, I always see what my neighbor has or what my colleagues have. It can be at any level, not just wealth. He's studying that book, I should also study something or the other. Some comparison will be there. So a great spiritual person says, Alvar, I think he says, since you have the habit of comparison, think as to what you are comparing always. You usually compare on two counts. We compare ourselves with others with reference to our material possessions, and we compare ourselves with reference to our spiritual growth. But what people normally do is, with reference to material possession, we compare ourselves with somebody who is high and always feel this discontent. So irrespective of whatever position I am, I always feel poor and I always want. And then it leads to other emotions like jealousy and other things. Very interestingly, with reference to spirituality, we compare ourselves with somebody who is below us and we feel satisfied. We say that person is always shouting. I don't shout that much. Like that we say, and we feel satisfied that I am somewhat okay than him. He says, if you have a comparing attitude with you, do it the opposite way. In materiality, you compare yourself with somebody who is lower than you and feel happy that God has kept you in a greater position. If you are having, a house to stay and 3 meals to eat and everything is okay, you belong to probably a small percentage in the world where others are not even having 3 square meals a day. Why don't you feel really content and happy about that? You are kept in a great position by the God there. Rather, compare yourself with Swami Vivekananda. Why don't you be jealous with Swami Vivekananda and you say that he is much more evolved than me, or Paramahamsa, or somebody else? So, always keep your inspiration with reference to somebody who is ahead in the path, who is already reached or something, so that your mind doesn't get into that complacency mode. And that is why the previous verse is very important. Maintain satsang at all times. Satsang is the only thing. Satsang will keep your thoughts centered around in this way. Otherwise, we may become complacent at any point of time. One with matted locks, one with head shaven, one with hair pulled out, one disguised variously with ochre robes. A fool, though seeing, sees not. Indeed, the various disguises for the sake of belly. We'll chant verse 15 twice.
Angam galitam palitam mundam dashanavihinam jatam tundam vriddho yati gridhitva dandam tadapi namunchatyasha pindam. Angam galitam palitam mundam dashanavihinam jatam tundam vriddho yati gridhitva dandam tadapi namunchatyasha pindam.
The body has become decrepit, head turned grey, mouth rendered toothless. Clasping a staff, the old man moves about, yet the mass of desires leave not. Verse 12 talks about the importance of dealing with our desires on an urgent basis. Verse 14 said that ochre robes per se will not work. Verse 15, 16 and 17 together form a very interesting thought flow. These 3 verses indicate 3 different modes or attitudes with which we approach and it will not work. Verse 15 talks about or indicates a complete indulgent life. Verse 16 talks about a complete abstinent life. Totally the opposite of 15. Verse 17 talks about what generally people practice a good goody life, which is better than 15 and 16, yet that is not enough. And then it leads to verse 18, which says, probably if you are disillusioned by these three verses that we don't have any chance at all, he says, no, renunciation is possible. The spirituality is very much within the grasp. It is there as encouragement, he says in verse 18. So these four verses form a very important thought flow here. This verse talks about the picture of effect of a complete indulgence. Take it that way. Okay. The body has become decrepit. He is describing, imagine an old man. The body is absolutely not cooperating at all. It is very decrepit, gone case. Head turned grey. Completely his hair has gone grey. Old man. Mouth rendered toothless. All the teeth have fallen. Clasping a staff. He moves with a staff. He cannot walk on his own. He needs support. He moves about here and there. This is a very beautiful description of the old man and what condition he is there. But he says, the mass of the desires leave not. That is very fresh within him. That is, see, I am talking about 15, 16 years ago. I've said this before. I read a small report in the newspaper. They had taken a survey. That time, this MTV was very popular. MTV was introduced when the satellite television invaded the Indian homes in a big way in the late 90s. MTV was coming, and they in fact predicted the death of radio once the MTV came. What they failed to understood was M in MTV stands for music. Music has something to do with audio. You cannot substitute music with something else and call it MTV. So eventually radio still survives. We do not know the fate of MTV. MTV was there, but that was very popular at that point of time. And they saw that they had a survey as to who views MTV, and they took in Bombay the maximum at various points of time. Early in the morning around 5 to 6, it was people who are aged above 60 who saw MTV maximum. Very interesting statistics they gave. Now, the thing is, they have probably grown up in a certain way. We are not to comment about that. And for whatever reasons, if they are not able to sleep and they get up early, they are not having anything solid to do. They have to turn on and the songs are coming and they are watching that. Probably if any match or cricket match was there, if they are interested, they would watch. Otherwise, they were watching MTV. So what it means is, why I am giving this incident is, people think that after a point of time, automatically renunciation sets in. You will be able to have a control over desires and turn spiritual. You ask anybody, you want to have come to Gita class or Sunday morning or anything, they'll say, and they have value also. But all this we will see after retirement. This is a common refrain people will say, because this is not the time for it. And very essentially they will say Gita and other Vedantic texts, they practice or they preach renunciation, which is a fact. Okay. But what is very interesting is, Gita is given on a battlefield where Arjuna is wanting to run away from action and he is brought back into action. He is brought, in other words, Arjuna is wanting to renounce. Where Krishna says, you are not fit for that, you have to do action here, and he is with Arjuna as the Adhikari, is giving Bhagavad Gita there. So it is a common myth or a general misunderstanding that maturity, renunciation, or general attitude towards religion, spirituality, puja part, anything for that matter, all this will automatically come once you are, all this comes once you are post your working age or retirement or something. It doesn't automatically happen like that. That is what this verse is indicating. Now, I leave it for you to think about one thing here. In verse 10, what he said was, Vayasi gate kaha kama vikaraha. Verse 10, he said, Vayasi gate kaha kama vikaraha. When age is gone, when you are old, where is the play of lust? He is talking about three cause and effect in that verse. When the water is gone, where is the lake? He said that. Okay. Now he is saying, is actually a person who is old, who is not even able to walk properly. He has to walk with the stick. That means it's a picture of an old man. But his desires are full. Okay. He is there, young at heart, as it were. So there seems to be a contradiction. But it's not. It is not a contradiction. What it means is that playfulness and the lust with which your body cooperates in executing the desires where you think no bound of yourself, that is not possible of this. And yet, it is there deep within your system that is kept alive because you are lingering. That's about all. So, in other words, renunciation is to do completely with your mental attitude. It has nothing to do. A person is not able to contact or is incapacitated, or if doctor says you should not eat sweet and he has given up sweet, that doesn't mean he is a renunciate or something. By force of circumstances you do certain things. All this is not amounting to renunciation. Vairagya is a great quality, dispassion. Dispassion, if for you to practice, as a practice, you must have first of all passion of a particular object. I am talking about dispassion in a certain area. And you must have the capacity to enjoy that object. And the object must be available. Then if you are able to say no when you want to say no, that is practicing. Suppose if doctor says if you smoke one more cigarette and your liver is gone or kidney is gone, whatever, your heart is gone, then you say that I give up this. That is because of your physical incapacity. Or let's say the government bans alcohol and alcohol is not available and you claim that I have renounced it. That is also, it is just not available for you. So you can, like that grapes are sour and the fox says, it's a pseudo-renunciation. It's rajasic in nature. Or, for whatever reason, you don't have passion at all. A person has no clue of what cigarette is. He has no idea of what alcohol is. And I would say it's a good thing that you are abstaining from it. But when he has no clue, no knowledge, and he can't claim renunciation or dispassion with reference to cigarette. So, dispassion or passion is when your passion is there, a taste is there, but you are able to say at the mind level no, when you really want to say no because it is an obstruction in your path. That is true renunciation. Okay. So, this verse, you have to take it that this man has attained this age through an indulgent life. He has gone through all these things with the desires. Now the desires are there, his body is not cooperating. That's about all. But his desires are still fresh. So this verse also busts the common myth that some people hold, that if you want to get rid of any desires, go ahead and fully indulge in it, fully enjoy it. Will that really work? Think about it. See, there are, I would say, some spiritual practitioners themselves who recommend this. Only by knowledge can any desire be overcome, or you can grow over it. It is not by anything else. There was a movie in the late 90s by, it was a Rajinikanth movie. In Tamil it came. I think it was a remake of some English movie. I don't know what it is. This person was a son of a wealthy billionaire maybe. But he doesn't know who his father is and is growing in a different family. And his father, because for whatever reason, his mother was abandoned or something like that. His father was searching for this son later and he could not find him. And he wrote a will that whenever if my son comes, he is eligible to take over all the properties, which is, let's say, worth 300 crores or some huge amount it is. He can take it all, provided there is one condition that he needs to satisfy. He tapes this in a videotape. That one condition is that I will give 30 crore of rupees for him initially. This he has to spend within 1 month. He has to spend this 30 crores within 1 month. And there are certain conditions. You cannot buy any asset or property in your name because that is just an easy thing that you have. So at the end of 30 days, you should not have any property in your name. You should not do charity. easily you can give away. That should not be done. It should all be expenses properly done, and there must be somebody to have a bill and receipt for every amount that you spent. Like that, he has put that condition, and he is dead now. By chance, this boy, who is a young man now, he comes to know about the vakil who has that videotape, and he sees that. And in the tape, that father explains as to why he is doing this. He is saying that when he was young, he had this habit of smoking. And when his father saw him smoking, he did not directly attack him or condemn him. What he said was, he locked him in a room. And in that room, he filled it up with full cigarette packets. And he said, throughout the night, you have to just smoke, nothing else. I know you are passionate about it. You go ahead, it is my sanction, but you have to finish. You have to do this. And the boy smokes. And morning, he comes out really disgusted with the whole practice of smoking. And he takes a vow that never in my life I will smoke again. Because he has indulged and gone through the experience to such an extent that he is just now completely disgusted with it. Now I ask you, will this technique really work? This is movie. They have shown this. Will this technique work? It should work.
Separation. No. Because it will create a sort of disgust.
So many people are watching TV serials to the point that they don't enjoy it anymore. They are really disgusted. But do they stop watching? It doesn't seem to work that way. See, one thing can happen that you can really get disgusted about it. You can even have a hatred towards it. But you are not doing anything to take that ultimate rasa out of your system. Verse 59 in chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita says, Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. You can deal with the control aspect of it in a big way through and he says, Yatato vipikaunteya purushasya vipashita. Even a person who is striving in the spiritual path, this temptations of the senses and everything is going to attack him again and again and again. And when there is a deep lingering thought somewhere down your system again, it will surface when there is a proper environment and you will catch up again. There are very many people who have really given up smoking and this thing very obviously, but somewhere 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, what will happen? And it is not that they have lost control, but the taste or lingering is still there. They may still go ahead and have it. When will that rasa be gone out of your system completely? He says is param drishtva. Only upon realization where you have understood some other taste in full essence. As of now, for us, Brahmajnana or Atma Vidya is at the conceptual level and we try to gain that taste of it. But this person who is seated in the taste, he will not have taste for anything else. For sure, it is completely taken or rooted out of the system. Now, a person who is in complete indulgence may develop even a frustration, even a hatred, or even a enough, that sort of attitude. But you cannot say that the lingering desire that there is there within him is automatically taken out. It is not possible. Probably it is a movie and it is just covered there. I wouldn't recommend that you try anything out like that in a real life. But think about it. It will not work that way. So, vriddho yati. So this verse is sort of a reference or a proof. This person moves about here and there with a walking stick, yet the desires are there in full force that is there. So the lesson in this verse is that indulgence doesn't take away the desire. Now if indulgence doesn't take away the desire, the next question comes, if I completely abstain right from the beginning, what happens? So next verse is talking about that. Verse 16, we'll chant twice.
Agre vanhihi prishte bhanuhu ratrau juguka samarpita januhu karatala bhikshastarutala vasaha tadapi namunchatyasha pashaha अग्रे वह्निः पृष्ठे भानुः रात्रौ जुगुकसमर्पितजानुः करतलभिक्षस्तरुतलवासः तदपि न मुञ्चत्याशापाशः.
Fire in front, the sun behind, knees stuck to chin at night, receiving alms in palms, living under trees, yet the band of desires leave not. Here again, picturization is given of a person who is a completely abstinent person, probably even a young person. He is describing a person, how he is conducting himself in probably a winter evening or a winter night. Setting sun is there, okay, fire in front. He is facing east and sitting. Imagine that, that's all. He's feeling very cold. So, there is some fire in the front. He is sort of bare-bodied, okay. He is giving a picture of a person who has completely sort of not touched anything to the extent that he has given up his clothes even to cover himself. Maybe bare as minimum, whatever it is. But he is completely at that stage. So, since it is very cold, he is having some fire in the front and setting sun in the back. That's all it is for his protection. And therefore, how do we say it is very cold? He is saying knees stuck to the chin at night. We may not be able to demonstrate here, but imagine like this. Both the chin is like this, sitting very huddled together, where he is holding his knees tight around. And chin is there, resting on the knees. This is the picture that is given. That means he is going through that shiver, but he is going through that extreme, whatever, within quotes, I am saying tapasya, in a very, very tough way that he is going through. And he doesn't even have a begging bowl for himself. Karatala bhiksha, whatever anybody gives, he is having only his palms as palms to take the alms. Tarutala vasaha, doesn't have a house of his own. He just lives under a tree. That means he is a practicing renunciate, as it were, in every sense of the word, physically. Absolutely not roti, kapda, makan. This is the basic thing, right, for us to survive. All these three, he is not even in the barest minimum. Like that it is. No house, no kapda, and even food, whatever is his hand can hold, that's all it is. Karatala bhiksha. Not even having a begging bowl where he can little bit more have a full morsel. That means here is a person who is practicing absolute abstinence as far as any worldly contact is concerned. So here we need to understand the difference between what is self-control and what is self-denial. Self-denial is practiced by many in the name of religion, thinking that it is self-control. Certain amount of tapas does have a value, but how do we differentiate and understand, because it is all coming to our practice, how do we understand the differentiation between self-control and self-denial? We will see in the next class.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate